The Buffalo Bills decide to select a player who I absolutely love in this draft class, Maxwell Hairston, a guy who I think when we did the mock draft on the podcast, I quote-unquote reached on him, but I really like him. I think he's a really good player. The traits are outstanding. I mean, just the physical aspect of his game, which we'll talk about when we get into film, is outstanding. As for the fit, I think they need a corner. I mean, they brought Tre'Davious White back. You can't expect much there. You have Christian Benford, who's awesome. You have Taron Johnson, but you need someone else out there. And I think this is a great pick, quite frankly. If he can hit, and you can have that with a solid safety group. I think maybe you'd like not to have DeMar Hamlin taking 1,000 snaps. You'd like him to be a third safety, but ultimately helping out the secondary, it was a big issue against Kansas City, right? And that's what they need to improve upon. And I think he can be someone who can do it and maybe keep up with some of these fast Kansas City receivers. I'm just throwing that out there. I know that they don't play in the same division, but they kind of do. They play each other twice a year, it feels like anyway. So, that's what I think about the fit. Let's get into the player and why I'm so high on this guy. Let's start off with this play. So what's going to happen here is you see the zone that he's in charge of covering, sort of the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. That's where he is. And that is what the opposing offense is going to do, which is difficult for Hairston to cover, right? You can't cover two guys at once. Essentially, the way this play works is you have one receiver run a route just trying to kind of clear Hairston out of the area, get him moving more towards the middle of the field and deeper down the field. You're then going to have a different player who's going to run over and go to where now Hairston isn't. And watch, as this play begins, that's kind of exactly how it's working out. Hairston, I mean, listen, he has to cover the guy in his zone, right? So, he's doing exactly that. But unfortunately, there's now that player right there who appears as though they are someone who could, get wide open. Usually, for most situations, that is what would happen. That player would get open and the offense would have a big play. But Hairston is not your average corner. Watch as he reads this play really well, gets back over, and he's going to get the interception as well. He is not just a corner who will knock the ball away. He will, catch it, and that's what you see him doing right there. So, yeah, really smart play, really high-level play from someone like Hairston. And to be honest, he just does a lot of little things like that, like things that go completely unnoticed, but are really important plays. So like the one you see on your screen, this is a zone coverage concept. Again, you see the zone that he is supposed to be covering on this play. When this play begins, what you're going to notice is that no one really goes to where he's supposed to be, right? That's where he is. I circled him in white, but no one's really exactly where he's at. You kind of have a few Kentucky players now just bunched up. Now, there is an offensive player who's a little bit further deep down the field, and so what is Hairston going to do? Well, he's just going to read the play. Watch, he just kind of drifts back, and he ends up, helping cover up that route had it been an option. Again, the quarterback ran on the other side of the field. Ultimately, none of that mattered, but it's still worth noting, and I think that's, a good job by Hairston to make a play like that. Like something like this is another example where it's going to be a zone coverage concept. And again, you see where he is on the field. He's covering the top right-hand corner of the screen. Now, the offense is going to have a player run from the offense's left to the offense's right, and it's going to be further over the middle. So for Hairston, okay, you got to pay attention to that route, right? That's the only eligible wide receiver on that side of the field. The only other eligible receiver is the running back on that side of the field. So definitely a route you want to pay attention to. But then the offense is going to have another player who's going to run to, again, hopefully to where Hairston now isn't. You're trying to take advantage of something like that, right? You're using a setup route to get something else open. Watch, once this play begins, you're going to see that, again, Hairston paying attention to that route, but ultimately he has help for it, right? He doesn't need to get over and make the play. Naturally, you're going to want to, but you don't need to. What does he need to do? He needs to cover that route. But again, it's hard to pick this up in real time. It's hard to pick it up quickly, but ultimately that's exactly what Hairston does. He does pick it up quickly, and there was also help elsewhere. But Kentucky did a good job on that play in general of covering down the field, but he read the play well as well. He does a very good job, I would say, at reading his plays, understanding his assignment, which is ultimately what you want. If you're going to play zone, you need to understand your assignment. But ultimately, something like this as well is something I like, because okay, listen, when you see Hairston, if you're just looking at his draft profile page on whatever, The one thing that's going to stand out, okay, first the 4.29 speed, that's very good, but also only 186 pounds at 6'1". That's a skinny player, and while a corner doesn't necessarily have to be huge, that still could be a little bit concerning. However, do not get fooled. On a play like this, where you see where he's designed to cover the, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, the zone in white, and they have just a route trying to get underneath that. Watch, when this play begins, that's exactly what happens. You have this little, quick route just to get a few yards. Hairston's reading this play, well, but the question is going to be, can he run up and make the tackle? And as you see, yeah, he is able to run up. He, does his best to deliver a blow. Again, he's not a huge guy. He's not going to be, running you over. He's not Richard Sherman when it comes to tackling, right? That's just not his game, but he'll play physical enough. And what I also like about him is stuff like this, where it's going to be a one-on-one matchup, and you have this quick curl route that can allow for a little bit of separation. Again, as a corner, these routes where you're faking as though you're going deep can be concerning because you got to make sure you don't get burned deep. And then, when you don't actually go deep, there's usually a bit of space. Well, when this play begins, for one thing, Hairston doesn't have to be that concerned about getting burned deep. That's kind of the advantage of speed, is people think of speed simply in terms of go routes, but it actually sets up everything for a corner. Because if you don't have to worry that much about getting burned deep, well, now you don't have to go up as much space in basically every other route. Here, though, it's a pretty well-ran route. There still is a little bit of space, and you think that there is an opportunity, but this is the other thing that Hairston does so well, is he just closes on the ball so well. Watch him, as that's exactly what he does. He helps cover up that play. It ends up being incomplete. Again, maybe the throw was a touch off as well, but still, that's just what he can do and what he can do consistently. And then stuff like this too. Again, if you talk about an outside receiver, or an outside corner, what you usually want is a guy who can just cover to go route, right? Like, that's ultimately something you're going to have to be able to do if you're going to be an outside corner at the NFL level. On this play, again, it's zone, so he's naturally playing a little bit off. You see the defender is kind of, trying to make go with a move right here, but it's really just not working. Hairston's kind of all over it. And then when the receiver runs deep, at that point, you're not going to run by him. It's essentially game over. And that's just what you see Hairston do consistently. So yeah, as a whole, he's just a corner I really like. I think that, the ball skills and the speed, while still being very, I would say very shifty, definitely works. Again, he's not going to wow you in run defense, but he does play as physical as he can given his frame. Is also a player who is coming off an injury, and that's not ideal, but ultimately there's enough positives here that I do like him a lot as a player. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Maxwell Hairston. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you, and of course, as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that video and want to hear more of my thoughts, well, for one thing, you can check out my movie channel. Yes, I have a movie channel. You can check the link in the description below. I do some fun things like some movie reviews, even some TV show reviews, tier list, fun things like that, so you can check that out. Also, make sure that you are subscribed and paying attention to this channel, as there will be plenty of draft content. I plan on making a video for every first round pick, many of the other picks throughout the draft, and also I will do recaps for each team after the draft is over. So I will eventually talk about every single pick from your favorite team. Be on the lookout for that, as it will be out this weekend. And also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at Jackson Kruger, or X, whatever you prefer to call it. But yeah, that's all I got. Thanks again for watching till the end of the video.